Hurricane Hermine was the first hurricane to make landfall in Florida since Hurricane Wilma in 2005, and the first to develop in the Gulf of Mexico since Hurricane Ingrid in 2013. The ninth tropical depression, eighth named storm, and fourth hurricane of the 2016 Atlantic hurricane season. Hermine developed from a long-track tropical wave. The precursor system dropped heavy rainfall in portions of the Caribbean, especially the Dominican Republic and Cuba. In the former, the storm damaged more than 200 homes and displaced over 1,000 people, although some areas of Cuba recorded more than 12 in of rain. The precipitation was generally beneficial due to a severe drought. After being designated on August 29, Hermine shifted northeastwards due to a trough over Georgia and steadily intensified into an 80 mph Category 1 hurricane just before making landfall in the Florida Panhandle during September 2. After moving inland, Hermine quickly weakened and transitioned into an extratropical cyclone on September 3 near the Outer Banks of North Carolina. The remnant system meandered offshore the northeastern United States before dissipating over southeastern Massachusetts on September 8. In preparation of Hermine, multiple tropical cyclone warnings and watches were issued in the southeastern United States, while state of emergencies were declared in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, and New Jersey. Storm surge and heavy rainfall along the Florida Gulf Coast caused significant damage. In Citrus County, one of the worst areas impacted, 694 structures sustained damage, of which 531 suffered major damage, while damage reached about $102 million. Similar coastal and freshwater flooding occurred in Pasco County, where 7 homes were destroyed, 305 sustained major damage, and 564 received minor damage. Winds primarily left power outages and downed trees, some of which fell on 2 buildings and vehicles. About 325,000 people were left without electricity, including 80% of Tallahassee. 1 death occurred in the state after a tree fell on a homeless man's tent near Ocala. Flooding and fairly strong winds in other states such as Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina caused further damage, but to a lesser degree. 1 fatality each occurred in South Carolina and North Carolina. In New York, 2 fishermen drowned near the Wading River on Long Island due to rough surf. Overall, Hermine caused about $550 million in damage in the United States. Meteorological history. A tropical wave emerged into the Atlantic Ocean from the west coast of Africa between late on August 16 and early on August 17. Marginal wind shear disrupted the system's organization, and it passed north of Puerto Rico without further development. Deep convection increased further as the depression moved more into the Gulf of Mexico. The hurricane strengthened slightly further to a peak intensity of 80 miles per hour by 00:00 UTC on September 2. Preparations. On August 30, the NHC began issuing tropical cyclone warnings and watches for the Florida Gulf Coast. By the time Hermine reached hurricane status, a hurricane warning was in place from the mouth of the Suwannee River to Mexico Beach. A tropical storm warning extended southward to Englewood, which included the Tampa Bay area, and westward to the Walton Bay County line. A hurricane watch was also in effect from the mouths of the Suwannee and Anclote rivers. On August 31, a tropical storm watch was added for the Atlantic coast between Marineland, Florida, to the Altamaha Sound in Georgia. As Hermine approached and moved up the coast, tropical storm warnings were in place as far south as Marineland, and as far northeast as Sagamore Beach, Massachusetts, including portions of the tidal Potomac River, the Chesapeake and Delaware Bays, Long Island Sound, New York City, Block Island, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, and Cape Cod. All tropical storm warnings were dropped when the NHC discontinued advisories at 18:00 UTC on September 6. Florida Governor Rick Scott declared a state of emergency for 51 counties. States of emergencies were declared in Georgia. Impact: Caribbean. On Antigua, a lightning strike produced by thunderstorms associated with the precursor tropical wave severely damaged 269 kV transmission lines, causing an island-wide blackout on August 24. While in its developmental stages, the precursor low dropped 3 to 5 in of rainfall across northern Cuba. United States. Total economic losses across the United States reached $550 million. Florida. Ahead of the hurricane's landfall, a station south of Apalachicola reported wind gusts of 79 miles per hour at an elevation of 115 feet. High winds from the hurricane knocked down many trees in northwestern Florida, some of which fell onto power lines and roofs. The resulting power outages affected about 325,000 people. Storm surge and abnormally high tides caused significant damage along the Gulf Coast of Florida. In Franklin County, coastal flooding occurred in Alligator Point, Apalachicola, and Carabel. A total of 27 homes or businesses were demolished. 43 suffered major damage, and 102 others sustained minor damage. In Dixie County, storm surge heights generally ranged from 8 to 9 feet and peaked just inches below observations. During the 1993 storm of the century, a total of 61 homes or businesses that were demolished, 540 sustained major damage, and 322 suffered minor impact. In Hernando County, the storm destroyed 2 houses and severely damaged 18 more, with 179 sustaining minor damage. The county damage toll was estimated at $7.8 million. Numerous trees were uprooted or snapped in Alachua County, with several damaging homes in Gainesville. A number of power lines were also downed. In Marion County, trees were reported downed in several areas. A falling tree damaged a house, while another fell on a road and was later hit by a car, causing 2 people to be hospitalized. In Manatee County, precipitation totals generally ranged from 5 to 10 in, inundating streets in the eastern parts of the county. Residents in Bradenton, located in the western side of the county, evacuated their homes due to freshwater flooding. Elsewhere, Hermine weakened while crossing from Florida into Georgia, but still produced sustained winds of 45 miles per hour at Savannah, with gusts to 58 miles per hour. In Georgia, Hermine's winds knocked down trees onto cars and homes, resulting in several injuries in the subsequent cleanup process. Although there was no major damage, the storm flooded roads and downed trees in South Carolina, mostly in Beaufort, Bluffton, and Hilton Head Island, causing little major damage. Hermine spawned 2 small tornadoes over North Carolina's Outer Bank, one knocking over 2 trailers and injuring 4 people. On eastern Long Island, 2 fishermen drowned after being swept into the ocean near the Wading River due to rough surf. Aftermath. After Hermine exited the state, Florida Governor Rick Scott took an aerial tour of the damage in Cedar Key and Steinhatchee, pledging that affected businesses would receive assistance from the state government.